Here we have a statement written in 2014. We had enough evidence to say that dementia and Alzheimer's disease is a preventable disease, that 1/3 of dementia cases may be preventable. Now, when it comes to our diets and our lifestyles and their impact on our health, it's been said that our genes load the gun while our choices pull the trigger. So I started thinking a lot about evolution. We ate a certain way for 2 million years that led to the evolution of our brains, and then we turned our backs on that diet. And this ultimately paved the way for the fact that today, 60% of the calories that we consume worldwide come from 3 plants. 3 plants: wheat, corn, and rice. We see that there is no evidence to suggest that eating grains, including whole grains, improve our health. But perhaps the most insidious thing about these 3 grains is that today they're pulverized and packaged and sold to us in processed foods that line our supermarket aisles. These ultra-processed foods now make up 60% of the calories that we consume worldwide. When we consume these exact kinds of foods, they set off the equivalent of a forest fire in the body, and the brain sits directly downwind of that fire. That fire that I'm talking about, that's called inflammation. And inflammation directly accelerates brain aging, but the problem is our bodies need the proper ingredients to be able to repair from inflammation. Well, that's because we're basing our diets around not only these ultra-processed foods, but processed foods made from these 3 crops, which are pretty scarce when it comes to nutrients. They're calorically dense, but they are not nutrient dense. The other thing that these foods do very well is they send levels of blood sugar through the roof. And when blood sugar is elevated, an ancestral hormone in our bodies also becomes elevated. That hormone is called insulin, and insulin is the body's chief fat storage hormone. The fact that we're relying so much on these kinds of foods is why for the first time in history, there are more overweight people walking the earth than underweight. This is one of the reasons why human beings are so smart. We complete our development in the world, and it's thought the fat that we come packaged with serves as a sort of Mophie for the developing brain. As adults, our brains still love to use fat. It could almost be said, that when the brain is using fat for fuel, it's not aging. And the fact that we constantly, chronically deny the ability of the brain to use fat for fuel due to our chronically high carbohydrate diets, well, this might be one of the most detrimental aspects of the modern diet. I've become obsessed with what I like to describe as resetting my brain to its factory settings. So I like to spend more time with my body and brain in a low insulin state. And the quickest way, the best and most efficient way of getting your body and brain to a low insulin state is via fasting. Luckily, we all fast every single day, and this is when we're sleeping. So what I like to do is I like to pad my sleep by 2 or 3 hours on each side with an additional time frame in which I'm not eating. When it's time for me to eat, I opt for nutrient density, which describes foods that have a very high ratio of nutrients to calories. And there's no better example of that than dark leafy greens, like kale and spinach. They have tons of nutrients that protect your brain cells and help your brain cells create energy, and they have very few calories. In fact, the consumption of dark leafy greens is associated with reduced aging by up to 11 years. I eat lots of eggs. You see, I learned that when an embryo is developing, the first structure to develop is the nervous system, which includes the brain. Therefore, an egg yolk is literally designed by nature to contain all of the necessary ingredients required to grow a healthy brain. I also eat 2 to 3 servings of humanely raised grass-fed red meat per week. I eat lots of fatty fish, salmon, wild salmon, and sardines. We now know that the adult brain can grow new brain cells up until death. But the impetus there is that we need to supply our brains with the appropriate building blocks to do so. I also eat tons of fruit. But not all fruits, okay? I eat lots of avocados. Avocados have the highest percentage of fat-protecting antioxidants of any fruit or vegetable. This is really important and really key for brain health because your brain is constructed of fat. 60% of the brain, by weight, is fat, but it's a kind of fat that is highly vulnerable and prone to oxidation. We need to supply our bodies with fat-soluble antioxidants like vitamin E. I eat lots of avocados, an avocado a day. And I avoid, for the most part, modern cultivated sweet fruit. But today, our modern fruits are bred to contain more starch and sugar than ever before in history because we like the way it tastes. And the research on fruit, okay, might surprise you. Higher fruit consumption was associated with shrinkage of the cortex, which is your brain's gray matter. I also consume lots of fruit juice, but only one kind of fruit juice, extra virgin olive oil, which is actually fruit juice. Now, no talk about preventing dementia and cognitive decline, which is the most important topic I think there is, would be complete without a little bit of a chat on exercise. So aerobic exercise is really important. I don't do my aerobic exercise in the gym. I do it in the real world. I try to imbue my day with as much movement as possible. I'm always walking. I take the stairs whenever given the opportunity, and I bike ride whenever I can. I also love to lift weights, because the same exact stimulus required to grow your muscles and make them stronger also acts on your brain cells to make them more efficient. In her older adult at-risk population, that by adhering to a battery of dietary and lifestyle interventions, many of which I've described already, she was able to improve executive function in her subjects by 83% and improve processing speed by 150%. We know that brain health is important to 93% of Americans. That is awesome. What's less awesome is that very few people know how to maintain or improve brain health. Every 3 seconds, a new dementia case is diagnosed. Let that sink in. I mean, that's like heartbreaking. Our cognitive health might be a choice that we make with every bite that we take. And I want to be very clear that there's no person walking the earth who is not at risk. The brain is highly delicate and vulnerable to the many insults thrown at it by the modern world. You're never too young or too old to make a brain healthy choice.